What is up, guys? My name is Lex. Welcome back to the vlog. About 3.5 months ago, I left my apartment in Miami and set off on a long poker road trip. I first went to Texas, then Vegas, and then now we've made it to Los Angeles, California. First stop, we're going to be playing at the Commerce Casino, and we get right into the action here with Pocket Queens. Hijack makes it $35. I re-raise to $125 in the small blind. The big blind pretty quickly folds. The initial raiser lets his hand go, so we take down our first pot on the West Coast, playing at the Commerce. Next up, we get dealt another premium hand, Pocket Jacks. This time we make it $35 in the cutoff, which seems like a pretty standard opening size here. Button calls, small blind calls, three ways. We see a board, ace, 4, jack, 2 hearts. We make a set. Checks to me. I want to be putting out a bet here. I settle on a bet of $40. The button snap calls, small blind folds. I'm hoping to win a big pot against a button. Hopefully he has a strong ace, and then I look over at his stack and he has less than $200 remaining, which is obviously pretty disappointing when you flop a set. I was hoping to win a big pot here. However, on the turn, it's a brick. I just decide to put them all in. I put out a bet of $400, which is going to cover him. He thinks for a little bit of time and eventually decides to stick the money in there. So I show my pocket jacks, and the river is an ace, giving us a full house. My opponent flashes an ace and then folds, so we take down our second pot of the night. Over the next 30 minutes, the table action significantly dies down. I look over at some other tables which don't look too much better. I am kind of disappointed. I was hoping to come to LA and see some crazy California action, but then right after I say this to myself, two guys sit down that look like recreational players. They buy in for $1,500 and they start raising to $100 right off the bat. These guys seem like they want to have some fun and looking to mix it up, which is exactly what you want at your poker table. So I'm hoping the table gets a little bit better. In this hand, there's a raise to 100 by one of the action players, a call. I have Jack 10 of diamonds in the big blind. I make the call, so we're 3 ways to the flop. Queen 7, 4, 2 diamonds. We flop the jack high flush draw. I check. The initial raiser bets $200. This game is playing much bigger than a regular 5-10 game. There's already now $700 in the middle when the action's over on me. I think about maybe just check jamming all in for $1,500. However, these guys do not seem like they're in the folding mood. It seems like this money doesn't mean too much to them, so I take the lower variance route. Just make the call, trying to improve on the turn. Looking for a diamond, which we do not get. It's a deuce. A total brick. I check, and now the initial raiser bets $500. The cutoff player calls $500, and I just let my jack high flush draw go. They end up going heads up here to the river, and something kind of weird happens.
No diamond. Be gentle. She's like, what's going on? What do you have?
Under the gun goes to put his friend all in on the river and realizes that his friend's going to snap call him, so he keeps the chips out there and doesn't let them actually hit the felt. He then brings him back, asks his opponent, what do you have, and then checks. His friend bets and he just folds, so pretty funny hand there. The two action player friends ask if anybody wants to play bigger than 5-10, like a 10-20 or 20-40, and obviously I'm down to play with these guys, so we end up starting a new game, a 10-20 game. I buy in for a little over $3,000, and this game is gonna get big. Within the first shuffle, I pick up a nice playable hand here. King, queen of spades under the gun, make it $60. Only the small blind makes the call. Heads up to 5, 5, 6, 1 spade. Checks over to me. I put out an $80 bet. My opponent calls. The turn is the queen of clubs, giving me top pair now. I continue with a $200 bet, and this time he makes the fold. After one orbit, we decide to bump up the stakes, 10-20 with a mandatory $40 straddle and an optional $80 straddle, so this game is going to get huge. In this next hand, I'm in the big blind. There's a $40 under the gun straddle, an $80 re-straddle, a raise to $200, a small blind call of $200. I look down at pocket aces. I don't think there's a better spot to get pocket aces. A double straddle on, a raise to 200 and a call. I feel like any 3-bet sizing I use here is going to look super strong, so I actually decide to go bigger with my 3-bet sizing. I think the bigger I raise here, the more it might possibly look like a bluff, so I decide to go $1,100, about 1/3 size of my stack. Folds to the initial raiser, who lets his hand go. The small blind, one of the action players, looks at me, looks like he wants to go all in. but decides to let his hand go, which I'm fine with. We end up taking down over $500 of dead money without even seeing a flop. No straddle on in this next hand, so we're just playing 10-20, which is still pretty big stakes. There's a limp for $20 by one of the action players. I raise to $100 with ace-jack. Now one of the other action player friends makes a call. The limper makes a call, so we're three ways. 10, 5, deuce, rainbow. We completely miss on this board, but I do think it's a board I can continue to bet on. Looking to bluff or value bet on any jack, queen, king, or ace on the turn. So when it checks to me, I put out a bet of $140. Nobody seems to like this flop. They both let their hands go. We take down another one. Continuing on with another high stakes Los Angeles poker hand here where we have king 10 of hearts. I raise to $60. Only the button makes a call, so we're heads up. Ace, queen, 4, 1 heart. We flip a gut shot, backdoor flush draw. Great board for me to continue to c-bet on. I bet $100. My opponent snap calls me, turn deuce of spades. Doesn't improve us, but I do feel like this is a spot that I can double barrel, looking to potentially triple barrel him off any queen or possibly a weak ace. I bet $220. My opponent does not believe me. He makes a snap call, going to the last card, which is the jack of hearts, giving me the nut straight, the best hand possible. I was bluffing on the flop, bluffing on the turn, and I got there on the river. Now, how much should I bet? This jack is an amazing card and improves us to a straight, but it can also give my opponent some two pairs, ace jack or queen jack, so I decide to go big, $700. This guy snap called me on the flop, snap called me on the turn. He doesn't seem like the kind of player that likes to fold, so I'm really trying to get max value from all of his ace-x holdings or two pairs. He goes into the tank for a while. He starts counting out his chips. Could he possibly be thinking of raising here? That would be amazing. Come on, man. Shove it all in there with a bluff or two pair. He thinks about it for a while, contemplates his options, but eventually decides to let his hand go. He later told me he had a queen, so we got lucky on the river, and we take down another pot. Moving on to the next hand, pocket aces worked out so well the first time, so why don't we play them again? Red pocket aces, $40 straddle, raised to $120. I 3-bet to $420. My opponent makes the call. Heads up, queen, 10, 8, 2 hearts. Actually a pretty bad board for pocket aces. There's so many hands now that beat me, but I'm not going to check. I continue here with a $350 bet. This is not the best board for a 3-bet pot, like I said earlier. We're losing to a lot of hands like queen 10, pocket 10s, pocket 8s, jack 9 for a straight, king jack for a straight, or even pocket queens. All of these hands my opponent could potentially have, raising pre-flop and then calling my 3-bet. So I am going to proceed with some caution once he makes the call on the flop. We're going now to the turn, which is a very interesting one. It's the jack of diamonds, brings in ace king for the nuts. I do have some history with this opponent. I played with him in Florida, and I'm almost positive that he'd be putting in a 4-bet pre-flop with ace-king, and he knows that I know that as well, so I feel like this is a card I should continue to bet on because I'm the only person in this hand that can have the nuts, but given my actual hand, just one pair, pocket aces, this is actually a really terrible board. Any 9 makes a straight now, and there's a ton of 2 pairs and sets. I distinctly remember during this hand that I was thinking to myself, what are you doing betting on this card? But then I thought, well, I feel like it's kind of a card I have to bet on, and I can still get called by worse hands. Ace queen and king queen he has to call me with. If he does have a flush draw with a small suited connector with diamonds or hearts, he's going to have to make the call as well, which he does decide to do. So I'm probably going to give up here unless I hit a magical king on the river, which we do not get. It's a brick. And now I have to decide, should I check, should I bet small, or should I turn my hand into a bluff and jam all in? I do have about a pot-sized bet left here. I could jam all in, turning my aces into a bluff, representing ace-king. Like I said earlier, I'm the only person who can have the nuts, and he understands that. Maybe he will hero fold 2 pair like queen-jack, queen-10, or might possibly hero fold a set. However, what I've learned in poker is that people do not like to fold strong hands on the river, no matter how much you bet. So I end up thinking for a while and decide to check. He thinks for a little bit of time and checks back. I show pocket aces and they're good. On that board, holding pocket aces, I was definitely not expecting to see those chips again, so it feels amazing to have them pushed back over to me. We are up over $1,000 now, cruising through this session. Moving along, one of the action players hasn't been running too well. His stack is about $1,000. I'm in the $40 straddle. He limps for $40. There's 2 other calls. I bump it up with ace queen to $300. Only he makes the call, so we're heads up to an ace jack king board. I flop top pair. I decided to check it over to him. Given the fact that he limp called pre-flop and he was raising a lot of his strong hands, I don't think he's going to connect well with this board, so if I bet, he's just going to fold. But if I check, I can induce him to bluff, which is what he does. He bets $260, and with only around $800 left in his stack, with top pair, I just decide to rip it all in here. If he has an ace or a flush draw, he's probably not going to fold. He doesn't think for too long, says it's a bad board for him, and lets his hand go. The dealer pushes me the chips and I am stacking them into my stack now. When she puts out another round of cards, I'm in the big blind this time. There's a $40 straddle, then an $80 re-straddle by the action player. Folds to me and I look down with the same exact hand. Ace queen this time, I bump it up to $240. Only the under the gun +1 straddler makes the call, so we're heads up to the flop. I see bet small on this board and my opponent instantly jams all in, and he's going to win this one this time. Every 30 minutes we were doing $100 bomb pots. I had lost 5 in a row before I pick up ace jack of hearts. I end up flopping top pair and taking down $600. The next hand we play here, we have pocket nines. I make it $60, 2 callers, ace, jack, 4 flop. I check, checks all the way around. Turn 10, I check, checks all the way around again. River 6, I check. Action checks all the way around. I show pocket nines, and somehow they're good. It's now 2 a.m. I've been playing poker now for around 6 hours. I'm pretty tired, and the game's not as much action as it was when I first sat down, so I end up racking up my chips, heading to the cage, and cashing out for the night. Alright guys, that is it for this video. As you can see, we are no longer in a poker room. We are out here on Manhattan Beach, which is in Los Angeles, about 30 minutes from Commerce, about 15 minutes or so from my hotel. Super beautiful out here. The weather is a little chilly, but with the mountains in the background and I get to see the sunset. Obviously in Miami, it's on the East Coast, so you see the sunrise and you don't get to see the sunset. Pretty amazing out here. I'm out here in LA for another 5 days or so. As for the poker session, it started off with 5-10, ran decent, flopped a set of jacks, didn't get into too many crazy pots, and then they started a 10-20 with a $40 straddle game. So it was a big game, a massive game. There was 2 big action players going at it, which was super good. Couldn't really get into that many big pots with them, unfortunately, but I did pick up pocket aces twice. I held up, and other than that, it was just kind of a constant grind session. Didn't get into many big pots, didn't lose any big pots, didn't win any big pots, so I'll take it. Ended up profiting $1,013 on the session. Hope you guys are enjoying these traveling vlogs. We're here in LA for a week, probably 2 to 3 poker videos while I'm out here, and then it's back to Vegas, back to Texas, and then eventually back to Florida. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, hit that like, comment down below, and if you're not already, please subscribe. And until next time, I'll see you.